All right. Hey, this is a big deal. We've been trying to get this together for a while. Very thankful for you allowing us to hang out here this week and for you taking time before you get back to office. And I want to talk about that. But this podcast right here is going to kick off season 7. 7 years we've been doing it.
Wow.
This started with some dude said, hey, you know what? You guys need to do a podcast so we could just kind of keep up with what's going on. And we're like, man, I don't know if that's really our wheelhouse, you know. A couple ding-dong rednecks that like to shoot ducks. All of a sudden we're doing a podcast. And here we are 7 years later. It's really been a blessing. Built some great relationships, had some great guests on. And today, Kyle Broussard, we got another great guest on. he been this I gotta tell y'all, this man, I have witnessed it this week. We come down here for a couple days. We've had family stuff, and we are just getting our season kicked off. Finally, we back. And we were blessed enough to have opportunity with Kyle here with GatorTail to come down here and hang out at his place, Pecan Island. Is it pecan or pecan?
I call it pecan. You call it pecan. Tomato. You know.
Yeah. But I have witnessed you the last couple of days. We blew in here, man. You in the office. You in town. You at the football game. You here with us. You back on the Zoom call after the hunt. Then we running catfish lines. And, I mean, it's just your attention to detail with your family, with your work, with us while we're here, and your enjoyment for that. This has been a real blessing for us to be beside you opening week and just hang, man. It's been a good time.
Yeah, man. Hey, I appreciate y'all coming down. You get to see, how our world goes. You know?
That's right.
And that's and it's just, making time for what's important. Of course, family first. I mean, that's, and you just got to balance everything. Balance everything. Make it happen.
Well, you do a fantastic job of that, that's for sure. And being here in the great state of Louisiana, it's not called Sportsman Paradise for no reason. It really, truly is. All the stuff that y'all got here.
I told Dennis I could live here.
Yeah.
I really could.
I mean, you know, where this island is, across the street basically is the ocean, right? And then you got this, I guess what you would call this, the backwater slough.
Well, this is White Lake. So, I mean, it's White Lake is to the north. Gulf of Mexico is to the south. We have a barrier marsh behind us, on the south side, and then the Gulf of Mexico. So White Lake is north of us. It's basically a freshwater lake that gets brackish depending on the where the saltwater line is, or depending on the droughts, depending on rainfall. Yeah, it's a paradise down here.
You got that something wrong with you if you starve to death in this part of the world. I mean, there's something to eat everywhere you go.
Right. I mean, you got fishing on both sides of the road here, and you got gators running around. I mean,
that's the other side of it. There's something around every corner to eat you too.
Right. We saw some big boys. They was pretty impressive. I mean, we left Elvis at the house on these last couple of days because we didn't want to take a chance. And of course, this morning we looking out our front of our blind. Kyle saw it first. We saw a big gator. So,
yeah.
So,
Kyle, tell us if you don't mind before we get into business type stuff. Dennis and I obviously spend a lot of time on public. I know you have too. But you've hunted this area since like high school, right?
Yeah, we started hunting here. I started hunting here probably about when I was 20 years old. 2021. We picked up a lease down here, and I would basically bring clients from my family business. I'd bring them and my dad hunting, and we would didn't really know much what we were doing, but this is where we started, and I'd bring people hunting, and we had a camp down here, and started with a longtail Go Devil. And I had that, and I had a tunnel hole. I outboard with a tunnel hole, and that longtail Go Devil was just a killer. I mean, my dad was like, "Man, we got to come up with something better than this." He's like, it was fun whenever I was, I was in college at the time, and if I was driving the boat and I'm bringing everybody, it's fine. And he's like, man, this thing is just dangerous. And so we my senior year was coming up, and I had this idea pop in my head to build this GatorTail, and that's where it all started, down here, because of a need, because of a want, because of a necessity.
That's awesome.
And I designed it, and I went and took the long tail goat devil and I cut it apart. I basically tore it apart, and I used the engine and I used the prop, and that's it. I used the engine and the prop. And I designed my first GatorTail. And down here, ran it right here. It's outside the road on the lease.
It makes sense to me. I have run. We have both run very limited long tails. And I remember I've seen guys swamp boats just not understanding when they cut the corner how to handle one of those things. What were some of the challenges? I mean, it seems to me, looking at what you're talking about, it seems that's a great idea, kind of common sense, right? What were some of the challenges, though, when you were coming up with that different design, if that makes sense? I mean, I know there are a lot of them, huh?
It doesn't stop. It's still a challenge. Yeah. It's every day, I mean, that's what keeps. So the way this all worked is that, I designed the first motor, and I designed it, we used it, and we brought it out here. It was probably, I don't remember the exact year. Let's just say hunting season of 2023.
All right.
Okay. And it's closing weekend of duck season, and we had been running a tunnel haul. Okay. So I have an outboard tunnel haul that I could run. The water was high that year. So I have the GatorTail built. We got it in the corner, really not doing too much. Well, as the season progressed, the water got low, and we were like, man, we need to hunt. So I brought the GatorTail out that I had designed, and we take it out there, and the thing worked. Like, we're running over mud flats that before, when you get to the mud, the long tail just would get stuck crossing it. The outboard couldn't cross it because it would overheat. And we take this GatorTail, and we just riding across the mud flats. And we're like, man, this thing kind of works. And like I said, that was like second to last towards the end of the season, January. So the first thing I do is I go and I buy a little John boat, because I said, I got to test this on another boat, because we were running on a big, heavy boat. We come down here the next weekend, and it's really full of mud, north wind. Of course, 2 weekends after the season, the water all drops up, and they got thousands of ducks all over the marsh,
Oh, it never fails.
But we get out there and we start running it, and we're like, man, we got something special right here. So we knew it worked. Well, here we come, starting. I ended up taking a job with the family company and in our machine shop, and we're doing this, doing that, and decided, I said, you know what? We talked to my dad. I said, do you want to try to go into business with this thing? And he says, yeah. He says, I'll do it with you. So my dad and I went into business in 2004 and started producing them. And, he's been plays the most important role of what we do. He couldn't do it without him.
Right.
He does a lot of the design work, a lot of the engineering on it. I was running the business and building the business, and he's doing the design work, and we started with, 3 employees, 3 or 4, Now we're 60. And
wow.
we're 60, and we keep adding on, keep growing.
What was the family business?
So my mom and dad owned a business doing seismograph repair work, basically seismograph cables that back in the day, in fact, all of this land right here, the way they used to find oil is they would take seismograph cables and they run lines. They run grid lines, and they had instruments that would attach to the cables, and they would shoot dynamite. And whenever they would shoot the dynamite, it would sense the voids in the earth, the pockets. It would know where there was a hollow pocket, and then the geologists they'd study what information they had, and that's how they find oil and natural gas. So all of the Gulf Coast, it basically from I don't know what the lines are, but everywhere where they suspect that they would have oil, they'd make these grid lines and they'd have to lay out these cables. And it would go into the Gulf of Mexico. They'd be on the ocean bottom. And it started off, my grandfather did it, repaired these cables. And then my dad got in the business doing it, mom and dad. And then my dad, being the engineer that he is, started designing cables and designing instruments and designing other things for the seismic industry to make it easier. And just like everything, technology came and it went wireless. Seismograph went wireless. And at that point in time, we still had good connections with our vendors that we had done work for many years. And one of the guys sends me the drawings to do machine work on some of the wireless components. Okay? And I got this stack of drawings sitting on my desk, and I got one stack of drawings that is for wireless instruments for the seismograph industry. And I have on the other side of my desk the stuff for the GatorTail. And I said, what am I going to do? And we took the seismic stuff and we threw it away. And we took GatorTail and we put it in the middle. And we said, that's what we're going to do.
That's awesome.
And that's what we did.
That is great.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, look, that seismic industry has been very, very good for us. And the facility that you see, the original facility was built for the seismograph industry.
The building you're still in today.
Yes. Now we've added on.
Oh yeah.
We've added on numerous times. The whole boat building facility, that's all just for GatorTail. That wasn't there before. And we've added on a lot of square footage since. But the original, we added on offices. But the original building was was Besco. And we also had a CNC machine shop that we did oil field CNC machining work. That's where I had gone to work whenever I graduated. But anyhow, we sold that. My dad and his partner sold that business. My dad sold the business and got out of the machine shop world and kept a couple of machines just to do the seismograph stuff. Well, when GatorTail started, we have more machines now than we had in our CNC machine shop because we have a full CNC machine shop. I mean, that's a lot of our background too. I mean, we can design and machine anything that we need. I mean, that's what makes us unique is that, I can run that boat today and say, man, this isn't right. I want to try to do this. I want to try to do that. I'll call my dad. Hey, I think we need to change this. He's okay. I'm gonna draw it up. He draws it up. He brings it to Tommy in the machine shop. Gives it to Tommy. By this afternoon, I have a new part built. I mean, that's what we do.
Those guys, and it doesn't. You can correct me because you've been in that industry, but we had a plant with a lot of machines back in the day that I managed, and we had 2 machinists. And it doesn't seem like there's as many of them guys around as they used to be. Those guys are incredible.
Yeah, and it's what you probably had back in the day was manual machinists. Okay. Because a lot of plants, you got to have a manual machinist to fix,
That's right.
make a specialty shaft, That's one thing that is a lost art these days. Because a lot of stuff is all done on CNC.
Okay.
Now that being said, we don't have any manual machines in our shop anymore. We have a manual mill, and we have a little tool room lathe that we basically do some manual work on. But these guys now, they so good at programming that there's not a lot of manual. They don't do a lot of manual stuff anymore.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Dennis and I, over our years on public land, we had the opportunity to run. We've run different kind of boats, and we've had people ask, why you run this here, why you run that there, why'd you move here. At the end of that experience for us, it really is neat to have run different styles, different types of boats, just so we better understand what we need. And when we get in that, we realize that. And I want to ask you, what kind of, in your eyes, why GatorTail? What separates GatorTail?
I don't know. I mean, it's not. I don't even know what the others do. I don't pay attention to it. In other words, I know what we do. I know that. I mean, you see how I test my products. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
We've seen it.
You see what I do. I mean, I'm in them all the time. I mean, honestly, it's not. There's not a week of the year that goes by that I'm not in one of our boats and motors. Okay, and if it's not me, my employees. I mean, you saw Damon was here. He's in them. Running stuff, testing stuff. I got my crew at the shop. My salesman's in them all the time. My mechanics, the guy that runs my mechanic shop. Both of them, I mean, if you walk around, everybody there owns one and uses them. Okay, so we're constantly want feedback. We constantly want to make them better. That old saying, I mean, you surround yourself with good people is what we do. I mean, basically, that's what we do. And we listen. We listen. I didn't build that business. We built the business. And, I mean, I can't do it without everybody else. I've never claimed that I'm the one. That's because I'm not. I mean, everybody that worked for me over the years and work for me now, all of my vendors, all of my friends, everybody plays a part. And I listen. I want to know. I don't want people to be nice. I want people to tell me what they like and what they don't like. And I think that might be what separates us. There's some things that we have control of and some things we don't.
Right.
I feel like I know what the consumer wants, what the future is going to be. And you have to take it's whenever you're in business, it's a fine line. A business has to make money to better keep the doors open and stay successful. But you have to treat the customers right. You got to make sure the customers are getting a good experience. You got to make sure they're satisfied at the end of the day, because it does me no good not to have a satisfied customer. I mean, that doesn't do me any good. There's no satisfaction in that. So we want to make sure when we come out with something new that it can do what I can tell you it can do. I don't want you to feel like you wasted your money. Are our motors and boats for everybody? No, it's not. Not for everybody. I'm sure somebody's going to say, well, you know what? I have another brand and I like that better. That's fine. Listen, I don't have to win them all.
Right.
That's not what it's about. I just want to make sure everybody has a good experience and they're happy with what they bought.
It's a great perspective.
Yeah.
A very good perspective. So,
tell me, you talk about future, and I want to ask you about future. I don't know how much you're going to give me about future, but I'm going to ask you anyway. But right now, what are you offering right now? You run a couple different motors, right? A couple different boats, or you build the boats to order. Just talk about business right now. What is business right now? Products that you're
right
moving?
Right now we are in a transition zone. We transitioning from boats that. So I'll tell you this. Several years ago, I don't remember the exact date, but it had to be probably 10 to 15 years ago. I went to the Coast Guard, and I wrote a shallow water exemption with the U.S. Coast Guard. I was the one that went to the Coast Guard and said, look, these boats are being used in shallow water. Can we get a flotation exemption so that we do not have to put foam in these boats? And they agreed with me. He said, airboats, they've been doing it for years. So I personally wrote the exemption, went to the U.S. Coast Guard, presented it to him. The guy signed off on it. He said, yep. And we were producing boats under a shallow water exemption, not requiring us to have flotation in the boats. Well, whenever this all started, it was meant for people, manufacturers like myself, who manufacture a shallow water outboard and a boat to be able to save weight in the boat, make the boat lighter, be able to work on the boat should something get damaged, that kind of thing. And the Coast Guard said later on in 2000, they gave us a grace period. I don't remember what it was, but the Coast Guard kept kicking back and saying, we need you to have flotation in the boat. And
why? Where do you have any idea where that came from?
Where it came from was the exemption was meant to be with a surface drive because of the weight of the engine, the weight of the power head, the air cooled engine is heavier than a water cooled engine. because it has to be thicker walled. It's just a heavier engine. So it going back to that, they gave this exemption to other boat manufacturers that were putting outboards on the back. Okay, and I mean, rightfully so. If they run an outboard in shallow water, I guess they can get away with it. But that's not the intention of it. Okay. And then at the end of the day, I'm sure the Coast Guard looked at it and said, man, we have way too much exposure on this because it was only supposed to be a few, and now we have thousands of boats running out there with a shallow water exemption that doesn't have full level flotation. So it was misused. The exemption was misused. It was, and the Coast Guard said, no, now you got to put full level flotation. Then, I went back and forth with them, and it is what it is. You got to build. Now, I will tell you this. A boat that's 20 foot or longer has no flotation requirements. So, we can build you the same boat you're running right now and make it 20 foot long, and you don't have to put foam in it.
I saw one of those the other day.
Yeah.
I needed binoculars. I felt like to see the other end of it.
But
compared to what we're running, that's long.
That is correct. And look, I've ran 20-foot boats. I've got one on the table right now that I'm building me. It's not bad. It's really not bad. Once you get used to running them, it's not a bad boat.
It probably gets on pad quick.
It does. If you wouldn't want to run a 2060, but you can run a 2048 or a 2054. I got some guys in the woods in Arkansas that like a 20-foot boat. You point it, and I mean, if you look in South Louisiana, crawfish skiffs. They use crawfish skiffs to crawfish in the woods, and all of those boats are 20 foot long, narrow. They'll do some 2038, 2042. But the longer the boat, I mean, as long as you're pointing it, it's got to follow. But
everybody has to put foam in the boat now.
Everybody has to put foam.
Less than 20 foot.
Less than 20 foot. So what we did is I came along and said I wanted the boat to appear to be no different than the boat that's out there now. We decided that we didn't want foam in the floor at all. So and the reason for that is the conditions we use our boats in. There's a lot of mud, a lot of water. So it's a wet boat. We're using it to duck hunt. So, I mean, we're getting in the boats with our waders that have mud and sand and water on them. Mm-hmm. So if you put foam on a floor, eventually that floor can't drain. That mud is going to stay on top of the foam. There's no way to drain it. There's no way to get it out. So what we did is we have no foam in our floor, no foam in the bilge. And we have a unique way of doing it, and we passed. I had Coast Guard at my shop about a month ago, and we tested boats there. We built a test facility, and we have some designs done really well, and that's what we're doing.
So when they come out and test, you take them out and you intentionally sink these boats?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and it's not and it's not as simple as just sinking it with the boat empty. Like we had to build a test tank, a test fixture to simulate a motor. It has to sit in the water for X amount of hours. Make sure the water doesn't seep and get into a compartment and then sink the boat. I mean, it's a lot of stuff, and you don't want the boat to, once it sinks, it can't roll over once it sinks. Okay, and I mean, throughout this testing, you learn a lot. My two boys now are 17 and 14. But you think about it and you see the way this thing floats, and if you hunting with a young kid, it's beneficial. I mean, it's beneficial for me.
Right.
After seeing it and understanding it and having to comply with it, I'm not opposed to it. I mean, I can leave those boats parked in the water back here all hunting season. I don't ever have to worry about a bilge pump failing, because if I drive up or walk up, the power head is going to be out of the water, guaranteed. I've seen it too. I saw the test. I did the test.
And we had a chance to visit those and look at those boats yesterday. And honestly, I mean, you really can't tell where it's at.
We were running one, wasn't we?
Yeah. I mean, we was in one. So,
what are some differences you've noticed
Well, you're gonna lose some the storage on the front deck. You're gonna lose that, which I mean we're gonna have some storage up there, just not nearly what we had before. And honestly, that storage under that front deck was so big that you get stuff lost in it before you fill it up. But other than that, that's about it. I mean, the boat's a little heavier, not much, but it's solid. The boat is quiet. I mean, it made a very solid boat.
I guess the number one question for customers is, did it lose any speed? Because that's what the number one topic is.
It doesn't seem to lose any speed. All the testing we did, it didn't.
Okay.
The boat's heavier, but it still runs at the same speed. So it didn't. Okay. And we were expecting that maybe it would. But it seems like it didn't.
I'm sitting in my head like I do a lot of times, Kyle, and I'm thinking, don't get into regulations, don't get into regulations, don't get into regulations. But I always end up getting into regulations. I can't imagine that process.
Let me tell you this. I'm gonna completely blow your mind. I'm gonna put this in a perspective. And as you know, by hunting with me the last 2 days, I put a lot of regulations into perspective. You know, and whenever you look at it that way, you're like, man, that makes a lot of sense. In the town of Lorville, Louisiana, we have 3 recreational boat builders. 2 companies build boats that are made to use in 12 inches of water or less. 1 company builds vessels that are made to use in 3,000 foot of water. I mean, they make offshore fishing boats, recreational. 2 companies in the town of Lorville, Louisiana, are now required to put foam in their boats, and 1 is not.
And it's the one in
12 inches of water or less. I mean,
that makes no sense to me whatsoever.
It just blows my mind.
Put that into perspective.
I can't do it.
Can't do it.
I can't do it. But talking about those regulations, you brought up Arkansas, and it's been a hot topic. They surveyed everybody over there. People wanting to ask, and Dennis has a great perspective on this as well. Talking about not allowing folks to use service drives on state land over there in Arkansas. I'd love to, Dennis. Your point first of all was kind of common sense. I'd like you to kind of share that.
Well,
here on the podcast, I mean, obviously they're saying these things are loud.
Right.
This motor is loud. We don't want to. It's too disturbing in the wildlife setting.
Well, my philosophy is this: you already have regulations in place that already restrict the boats, and that is time. So, you normally your boats have to be out of the WMA by noon.
Yep.
And they can't re-enter until 4 a.m.
Right.
So it's just a short window there that the boats are allowed to be on a WMA. And normally those boats are running from the boat ramp.
Point A to point B.
Point B. I get it. There is some little bit of running around. But majority of the time, on my experience on the WMA, the ducks are not roosting there anyways. So technically, I don't understand what the disturbance is. On that argument, when you're not allowed to be after 12 o'clock in those WMAs with a boat. So, to me, I would like for somebody to answer that question for me. And honestly, there again, you have some outboards are louder than the surface drives because they've been manufactured, or what I would say an afterkit or an aftermarket system has been put in place on these boats to, if it was a 25 horse, well, it's not a 25 horse anymore. You got a 40 horse or a 50 horse, whatever you decide to do with it. And by doing that, the exhaust on that thing is just as loud as a surface drive. But in the GatorTail experience, and just we experienced it this week with this boat and, of course, his new product, it's really not that loud.
So it always boils down to a common sense issue for me. Does anybody really believe that removing one type of boat over the other is going to create a situation that doesn't disturb any wildlife?
Right. If you drive one boat through a bunch of ducks, it's going to disturb them. It doesn't matter if it's a surface drive or an outboard.
Yeah,
it's still going to move.
You can say one's louder than the other. That's fine. You can take two boats, two different types of boats, whatever type they are. One's probably going to be louder than the other one. But is the one that's not as loud going to disturb it less than the one that may be a little louder? I don't know. That to me is a common sense. But the reason I'm bringing it up, I'm just curious. Obviously, I want to hear your perspective as a company that manufactures these boats. The other side that I want to hear about, I'm just curious if there's a conversation going on. Do these guys reach out? Obviously, you're a big guy in this market. Your boats have been around a long time. Very reliable boats. You have a large customer base that's very happy with your boat. Do they reach out to you and ask you, "Hey, Kyle, what you think about this? We think about doing this." Do you go up there and talk to these guys? Is there a conversation at all with y'all?
So in 2018, I went up and I talked to the commission. Okay, and I'm pretty sure it's 18. My dates might be messed up. I got so much going on every day. I'm not too good with dates. I have it all written down. Yeah. But so anyhow, I went up and I talked to them and I gave them some ideas and told them, look, I'm your guy if you have any questions. I'd be happy to work with y'all. Anything you need. I want to help. And hadn't heard back from them. I thought everything was good. And then earlier this year, I get this thing saying of this proposal. So the first thing I do is start calling people, And I talked to a lot of the commission members, and all of them very nice. Very, very nice. Took my phone call, talked to him about it, talked to the director. Just everybody was very nice and receptive. My wife and I went up there, and I actually talked to the commission in one of their meetings. And I have some ideas on how to make these things quieter. And, one thing that we all agreed on is, and Jim Ronquist is the one that said that. He said, these motors aggravate people way more than they aggravate the ducks.
I see that.
I would have to agree with Jimbo on that one.
Well, yeah, for sure. I have to agree too. That's the thing that
and people people can't separate that. I'm not gonna say people can't, but some of the ones the critics that are against them are it's because they allowed that's what's and don't get me wrong, the aftermarket exhausts are obnoxiously loud and should never ever be allowed to run anywhere. That's just ridiculous. You don't need something that's bleeding your ears whenever you're riding by.
Right.
If you're in a racing application, yes, but never during hunting season. I won't let anybody hunt on any of my properties with that. That's ridiculous.
Right.
But anyhow, I met with the commission and we have some things to talk about, and they open to, and what they stress to me is some of them have told me that our customers are using these motors in the wrong manner. That we need to help to educate the consumer that, and let them know that when's the right and wrong time to use them. Don't go running whenever everybody's hunting. And I don't really know how to do that. And I'm going to be honest. I said I'm the first one to tell you I'm not an Arkansas public land hunter. Okay, I'm very, very fortunate that when I get invited up there, it's with some of our customers and good friends, and we are not hunting public land. So I don't have an opinion on that. Okay, I lean to you guys and to my friends that do it and say, tell me, what can we do? My friends that hunt the public land, that run the GatorTails, they don't have a problem, nor do they see us a problem. Guys, in today's world, and we are right now world, everybody wants an immediate answer. Everybody wants a solution to a problem. And look, we're down here in South Louisiana. There's just less birds coming down. We don't have the birds that we used to have. hopefully it'll cycle back around. If we were all killing ducks and there was record numbers, we wouldn't be having these conversations. The fact of the matter is that these motors have been running around the woods of Arkansas since 2004. So for 20 years, they've been running around. If it caused a problem, it would have caused a problem that many years ago. Yes, there's probably more running now. And, I say that. Who knows? One thing that, and in the dates I might have messed up, but I want y'all to think about this. There's 3 things that was all invented at the same time. GatorTail came out in 2004. Facebook was like 2005, and Google Earth was 2005. My years are messed up. I have it written down.
Right.
But think about those 3 things: surface drive, social media, and Google Earth.
Jimmy shot him. I'm going to get on Google, find out where Jimmy was, because I saw he shot him on Facebook, and now I got a boat that could get me there.
Right, that's a perfect point. We've been talking about for years on public ground. There's really no more secrets.
But what I'm saying is, let's just take the boat out of that aspect.
Right.
Okay? What creates more hunting pressure? There's now you know where they are. Or furthermore, you know when they're killing them.
Right.
Okay? And so I know, and I'm going to give you an example. Down here, McCorn Island. One road in, one road out. Okay? I showed you where my other place was before we bought this place here. It's my bedroom was on the on the roadside. You really don't have to set an alarm clock in the morning because the trucks will start passing about 4:30. Guys that drive in, and they pass along the highway, and it would wake you up. Well, days of affront are the ideal days where you look at your phone and say, tomorrow's the day. That's the day we're gonna get them. Dude, the trucks start passing and they wake you up. You don't have to set an alarm clock. The days of a day like today when we hunted, you can sleep till 9 o'clock if you don't set an alarm clock because there ain't nobody here. And that's the difference, is that you talk about hunting pressure. You look and you know that what time the front is coming through. You know what time is going to be good, what time the wind's going to change. And that's the day we're going.
Right.
So it's all of technology and mankind that's the pressure on the birds.
Yeah, I would agree. I think when you talk about your product specifically, I think you could make an argument the opposite direction. Now you're capable of getting further away from people.
That's another thing.
You're able to spread out more because boats can get more places than they used to be able to. Back then, we would walk way back in the day. Now, so I'm with you. Technology by far, all-encompassing. So I don't blame it on social. I don't think – I get people all the time, and we joke about, hey, I can't believe you posted that picture. First of all, you don't know when exactly I was there. Mm-hmm. But let's just say I was there yesterday. I had so many guys say, I know that I've stood by that tree in all 30 years of doing this, and obviously social's only, like you said, since 05 or whatever. One time has anybody been right about that? Every year I got guys. I know exactly where. No, you do? You know where that is? Where is it? Oh, that's a biomate. That's in so-and-so. That's Hatchet Hole. That's this hole. That's... Bro, I was 3.5 hours from there. I would... Even if we come out and tell people, we come out with a video last year, hey, we killed these ducks in Texas. Guy messaged him, told him he's a liar.
That was in
Arkansas. There ain't no way you shot them in Texas. That's Arkansas. Yeah. It don't matter. That don't matter. But technology as a whole, you are absolutely right. Being able to find those spots... Being able to just have a general idea, your friends, people you care about, you follow, but you saw, hey, you know what? He shot him yesterday, baby. Ducks are here.
Yep.
We got to get out.
And to answer your question, during the hunting time, to control the noise, the guys running around, whatever, there are so many different scenarios that I can point out. And, it's just some guys are going to finish before others. Some guys, they come out there and they got to be at work at 10 o'clock, but they're going to get that first couple hour hunt in. You know what I mean? They're going to try to get everything you can. You can't blame them. So they're going to come out there, they're going to hunt. Guess what? They throw out decoys. They might be hunting the hole next to you. Guess what? They're picking up decoys. They ain't quiet. They're slamming decoys around. They're talking. You can hear them talk through the trees. They're not quiet. And to Billy's point, it doesn't matter if they're in a surface drive or an outboard. They're taking a boat through the trees. And regardless of what type of boat it is, it's going to disturb the birds. So you're not really fixing anything there. It's public land. Those are things that actually a public land hunter, before he goes, he has to understand that. And there's going to be situations that you can't control, but it is public land, and you can't get mad, you can't get upset. And we don't let it run our hunt. We have people next to us all the time. We wait patiently. They go, and we use our opportunities as they come after they leave, and things are just going to happen. And people are just going to have to be more patient, realize people have situations. Maybe it's work. Maybe they got their limit. Regardless, they left early. Maybe they're frustrated. Maybe there's not birds flying to keep them there motivated to hunt. It's their choice to leave, and you can't be mad about that. But that's a perfect example. It doesn't matter what type of boat it is, and people's going to leave at different times. You're not going to stop the running around. It's public land. And so that's the way I would answer that question to those guys.
Right.
Well, I don't you had mentioned it. I can't think top of my head any hunt that was messed up as a result of what you're talking about.
Yeah, and we've been out there for 30 years, and we've seen it.
I've had more hunts screwed up by knuckleheads firing their guns when they're not working birds and or wailing on duck calls when we're about to finish birds from guys that got too close over the years, just being turds. And I got to admit, I don't see that near as much. I do think a lot of people are talking about things like that, and it is my hope, at least, that a lot of us are realizing we are indeed on the same thing. We should work together. Man, it's so. I am so competitive, and I believe I am not a great duck caller, but I am a very competent duck caller. And if you working birds over there, I'm working birds here, I want them birds here, and I'm gonna do everything I can. And I can't tell you how many times when a bird's about to lock up and do it. He knows it even better because he pays such great attention to detail. And I've learned it from him, and I can tell you too, I know when that bird gets in a certain spot, that's the spot that he's going, right? You know what I'm talking about. And he'll say, shut it down. Shut it down. No, shut it down. They got him.
Yep.
And you know what? I admire that. And it was very hard for me to, and I know it's hard on kids that are competitive. They're competitive. They want them ducks. I still want them ducks. But that's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And he shuts it down and he lets them work. You know what? Ducks are ducks. They don't always go in, and I promise you, if I see them get up, I'm going to let them know I'm over here again.
It's ball game, Once they get back up, they flare up a little bit, and they wasn't confident to come in, and maybe they saw something, maybe they made a wrong move. They pick back up, they circle back around, and then it's fair game again,
Yeah. And we've talked too. You think they really know that? And he would take, no, probably not, but it's the right thing to do. You're right. I'll never forget. It was 2 or 3 years ago, and we were in a spot, and these guys come through, and they went to the next spot, and these spots were pretty close. But when them guys got done that day, and they said, "Hey, y'all beat the britches off of them. We would not have killed a bird today if y'all wouldn't have left us alone when we was working that group, because they would have come back to you just like all the other ones did all morning." But there was a group that was looking at them hard, and the same deal. Hey, let up. Those boys shot them ducks, and they did notice. And hopefully they carry that forward to somebody else. But I didn't mean to get off on that.
But that is the some of the situations that I think is not being talked about. Yeah. We need to educate people, and we're pointing to a situation that it's really not going to solve anything.
It's not going to fix anything.
It's only going to make it harder for these young men because, the GatorTail is so versatile of a boat, and it's a perfect example. If you are a kid from Louisiana and you are hunting these marshes, okay, you don't want to have to go buy an outboard to go to Arkansas to hunt. You know what I mean?
That was one thing that I brought up to the commission. It's like, it's not like these people that gives somebody the opportunity to have a boat that can do everything. Okay.
Right.
And look, the thing is now, and you know now, there's a lot of groups where everybody in the group is not running GatorTails. You might have one to run to the hole, but I mean it's followed by outboards now. So I don't think you're going to see the number as many in the woods as what you may have seen at one point in time. I will tell you this, that we are working to quiet the motors down. One thing is that our 23 horsepower that we built, the new 23M, which y'all didn't ride in it, y'all ain't got in them, you may have seen one, is whisper quiet. The Honda is very quiet, and we will have the 40 running that as quiet as those motors. Okay, so that's where we're at with it. So the noise thing, I think we can handle that. And look, I'll be the first one to tell you, if I thought that it hurt duck hunting, I'd admit it. Okay, I just don't see how down here. I mean, we it's odd that I'm hunting during the week because we're here with you guys, but our property is rest. We only hunt Saturday and Sunday, so we should have more birds on it than anybody down here, and that doesn't happen. You know, there's nobody running. There's no pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, you got 1,000 acres right here that doesn't see a boat for 5 days, and then we hunt on Saturday and Sunday. And it should be loaded, and it's not. So it's not the pressure of the motor running back there. It's not. It's what we're dealing with today.
Yeah, and we see the same thing across the country. It's not the boat. You got regulations, like I said earlier, for the boat to be in and out of the place, and like I said, it doesn't matter what type of boat you have. If you're leaving early and you're riding around, you're going to be disturbing birds. Doesn't matter what you're in, and you're going to create some type of noise regardless if it's loading or unloading or whatever. So it's back to common sense things that you talked about earlier. Your boats has got to have the floating device in it, and then you got a boat that's in there going out to the big lake over here.
Well, and
I still
look,
can't. I mean, it just in my mind, I'm still trying to figure that question out.
And it's
messing with me.
This is the side of what people don't realize whenever regulations are placed. Okay, we have 60 employees at that shop. Okay, that's 60 families that depend. Well, over 60. You know, that's just at our shop. 60 families that depend on GatorTail for their job. You know. The dealers, the amount of dealers that we have that their families depend on it, the amount of vendors we have, and you can't just snap your fingers and get rid of something on a speculation. You know, there's no scientific data that I know of. There was scientific data, and we studied this forever, and we found out that, you know, it is detrimental, then that's different. But you got to think about those kind of things when you're placing regulations.
Right.
Same thing with the foam in the boats. I mean, you know, some people, and I will tell you this: I have absolutely no issues with foam in the boats. Okay, and I'm straight up. I mean, I've been in them. You know, I have no issues with them. I think it's going to make some fine boats. And one thing about our boats is that, you know, it's all 125 gauge bottoms. It's the structure in there. We built a lifetime boat, so we don't plan on having to tear our boat apart to fix it. With foam in a boat, you can't fix those areas. So that's the downfall. So we have to build our boats a little bit more robust now to make sure that we're not having to ever go back inside of that boat and fix it.
Yeah, it's something you don't think about.
I didn't think about it, but I'm not in that industry. Now, if you ask me a question, you know, about air conditioning, I probably could help you out. But when it comes, that's why we trust guys like this to build our stuff. But brilliant idea how you came up with it, because honestly, I have a boat right now that doesn't have the foam, and I seen the exact style of boat that's at the shop with it, and
they look good.
They look good. You wouldn't know it, really.
Yeah, right.
So you did a fantastic job of designing it.
Right. Thank you.
Kyle, anything else new, exciting?
Oh yeah, lots.
You ain't gonna share none of it with us.
Not right now. Not right now.
Well, we would like to be the first when you get ready. We would like to sit down with you and do this again when it's time.
Yeah.
And kind of talk about those things, and we would love to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys tell everybody listening if they was in your neck of the woods, because you have a really cool facility. It's always, we got to go through there again, and we're going to share. We actually videoing today, so if you're watching this podcast on the YouTube channel, you'll probably be able to see this episode where we share some time at Kyle's place. It's a super cool operation that goes on there. People could come by there and see that, right?
Absolutely.
So tell them where you're located.
We are located in Lowerville, Louisiana.
And they can find you online.
Absolutely.
Obviously, social. I mean, y'all on all the social stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
All the Facegram and Instabook and Tickety Talk and all the places.
How Damon said that last night? You need to stop watching Facebook.
Damon is a handful. I mean, he is a full-time
like
character. Yes, he is. He's a very, very slick individual.
He's
funny guy.
Yeah. He makes a good meal, too.
Yeah, he can cook. He did a great job last night preparing the meal.
That was good food.
Good food.
Well, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story today and kind of some insight. If you listen to this and you run a service drive or GatorTail or, I mean, I think, and I'm just asking for your insight, Kyle. The best thing we can do is just continue that conversation. We don't want them to go away.
No. I mean, we need to. You can't snap your fingers and say they need to go away. There's things that we can do to comply with whatever they think is the problem. Okay. I will tell you that I'm 100% committed to work with all the governments that have any questions. Like, call me up. I'll go visit you. You come visit me. We'll work together to
figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
And give you time to figure it out.
Yeah.
Just don't call you one day and say, hey, you're out, you know, for this.
Yeah.
Give you time to adjust to what they're trying to regulate.
Yeah. And look, if anybody has questions on their boats, their motors, future purchases, give me a call. Leave a message for me. I mean, I'm probably going to be on the phone when you call.
I've seen that the last couple days.
But I'm there. I'm there every day. Okay? Unless I get this rare opportunity to come bring you guys in the middle of the week. But
you work too now.
Oh, absolutely.
We was we like Billy said, we witnessed you managed this weekend hunting, working, and entertaining.
Yeah.
So we appreciate it. We see the hard work you do, and a lot of guys out there do the same thing. I do it a lot too, and it's a process and trying to figure all that out. But you do a great job at that, and we appreciate you having us.
Well, thank y'all very much for coming. This was fun. We didn't kill a lot of birds, but that's not what it's about, though. You know, and that's another thing. That's something else that talking about leaving the birds alone, letting those other guys get it. We've all been hunting ducks for 30 years, you know. Mm-hmm. Are we as mad at them now as what we were back then? Yeah, we are. But we different, okay? We still hunt them just as hard as we did all along. What this slowdown in duck numbers has taught us is that it makes those days that much more special.
They do.
Okay? So, yeah, we didn't kill our 18 birds like we hoped we would have. But, man, we shot something. We had great conversations.
I think we fixed the world's problems in that blind out there. I wish we had just a lot of people listening to us, and we'd probably be better off.
It's not just about fixing the world's problems. You're fixing your problems your daily problems.
Right.
You know? Watching that sun come up and that boat ride in the morning and it's not. Don't get me wrong. I like to kill them as much as any of them.
Oh, me too.
But it makes those days that much more special. Whenever you do hit it, you're gonna remember those days instead of it being every day. And we've seen low numbers over here in Pecan Island. We saw high numbers in Pecan Island, and we back to our numbers are lower. But man, we have some really good hunts,
mm-hmm.
and Yeah. So that's something that as we all getting older, we are we want to let those guys next to us, let them shoot a few. You know, right. I kind of feel bad. Like this past Sunday, I had some of my guys hunting Bahanas, and we don't want shooting all day long. And I'm like, man, I said, just let's let some go that way. You know?
Yeah, that's right. Oh Lord, well, thank you for having us. It was a great time. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yep, good times. Thank you, brother.
All right, man. Thank y'all very much.